On today's program, we travel to the Indian subcontinent and to a mountain village in China. We'll also learn how one organization is touching the lives of hundreds of needy women and children in Asia. All that and more coming up next on Global Mission Snapshots.
Just before he went up to heaven, Jesus gave us a command. He gave us a mission. Jesus said, "Go. Go unto all the world, telling them of his love." This is our mission. This is our global mission.
Hello and welcome to Global Mission Snapshots. I'm Gary Krause. When I speak at camp meetings, sometimes I have someone from the Adventist mission staff come with me. When they do, I like to give them a quiz. And today I have a quiz question ready just for you. Ready? What percentage of the world's population is Christian? Is it A, 100%, B, 65%, C, 33%? Well, if you chose A, 100%, you've got a very optimistic view. If you said 65%, you're still pretty optimistic. You're right if you chose C, just 33% or 1/3 of the world. That means that 2/3 of Earth's population either has no religion or another religion than Christianity, and many of these people live in Asia. So today we'll be talking with Greg Whitsett, who heads up the Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions. But first, let's learn about Asian Aid, an organization that's making a difference in Asia through education and through health. We'll be talking with Jim Rennie, the CEO of Asian Aid USA. But first, let's watch this video.
For over 40 years, Asian Aid is an organization giving hope to so many. Their outreach spans from India and Bangladesh to Nepal and beyond. From remote villages and empty fields to sprawling centers of education. From nothing to the unimaginable. Asian Aid's development projects provide child sponsorship, fresh water, and medical care for women and leper victims. They provide a high standard of education to impoverished children. Asian Aid has a vision driven by a woman humbly fulfilling the biblical principle that calls for us to care for the least of these. This standard is still true today. The need is still there. Less than 50% of India's children get an education. 1 million women in Nepal suffer from uterine prolapse and are in need of immediate surgery. Over 5,000 babies die every day due to extreme poverty. These are but a few of the harsh realities. Asian Aid is meeting these challenges and transforming the lives of so many in need. Always sticking to their core mission, giving hope. Asian Aid sponsors thousands of children in slums and destitute villages. They support over 100 schools and orphanages. They provide a values-based education and give them a sense of place, a home.
Well, in my dream, I was just thinking of a small boarding school with maybe 50 children, and that of course did increase to 200 quite fast. But now to see these buildings and this campus is just so amazing. And now there are 750 children actually studying and learning so much on this school compound.
In Nepal, over 1 million women suffer from an epidemic of uterine prolapse. Through their educational outreach programs and medical treatment clinics, Asian Aid has helped thousands of women. They also give shelter and educate women who have escaped from the human trafficking business, providing them a way back to a better life.
One of the most important things that Asian Aid does is see that girls are cared for, that girls get a chance of education, and girls get a chance to come up in society.
Asian Aid supports premier schools for the blind and the deaf, preparing them for success in the world community. It's easy to put a price on what it costs to educate and feed a child for a day. But how do you put a price on transformation? Asian Aid graduates serve important roles, from nurses and teachers to top leading medical and research scientists. All are contributing in positive ways to the global community.
I want to be a social worker. I want to become teacher. I want to become doctor because I want to help the other of the people.
These children are living proof that Asian Aid doesn't just feed a child's stomach, but fuels their desire to learn, to achieve, and to give something back. Asian Aid feeds a child's soul. But ultimately, what Asian Aid does is give hope. Hope to children, hope to women, hope to those who need it the most. Asian Aid knows that making an investment in hope requires a decision to act now. It's a principle that can only pay off with help from sponsors like you. Standing still is not an option. Asian Aid is hope in motion.
As you can see, Asian Aid is doing a wonderful work in parts of the world where there are just tremendous challenges. And I'm delighted to have as my guest Jim Rennie, who is the CEO for Asian Aid USA. Jim, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Gary. Pleased to be here.
On the video there, we saw just a range of things that you're involved in. Can you just give us some of the highlights, some of the main themes of what you are doing?
Well, Gary, our main activity is child sponsorship. We take children based on need and place them in an Adventist school, and then they're sponsored by a person or a group back either in America, Australia, in fact in many parts of the world. So that's our key activity, and we have over 6,500 children
Wow.
sponsored in Adventist schools, predominantly in India, but Nepal and Bangladesh also. The next key activity are orphanages. We have 4 orphanages which are run by the church but funded by Asian Aid. And so once again, the children in those orphanages are sponsored by a sponsor or a group back in one of many countries. Then we're also active in helping schools. We're getting a big demand for helping schools with medical issues, building issues, and improving education. So that's a major challenge for us in some of these countries. In India and Nepal, we've started to get involved in child rescue. That's from children involved in beggary, involved in prostitution, involved in child labour. We've got involved in one program in Bangalore and one in Nepal. And then in Nepal, we're involved in women's health issues. We traditionally have helped women in that area, and have Asian Aid in total has done over 9,000 women's operations in Nepal.
Jim, that's a lot of people whose lives are being impacted. How are these children chosen? For example, the kids who come to put into an Adventist school, how do you get lucky enough to be chosen?
Well, it happens in a number of ways. First of all, a school may indicate that it wants applications, so we grant them applications. So either our field worker or the principal literally receives the application, which is vetted by the school and by us based on need. And so sometimes we get leads from the church, but in most cases I would say 80–90% of the children have had no exposure to Christianity. So we're doing a key thing. We are giving them a good education, but we're also introducing them to Jesus.
Can you give me an example of one of the children whose life has been changed by Asian Aid?
Yes, well, I visit a lot of schools in India, and sometimes I don't spend enough time with the children. So one day I had noticed a little bright young boy. He was always saying hello. I noticed he was very attentive in school, and he was a day student. So we have day students, boarders, and so a day student walks from their home to the school. So they're normally pretty close. Sometimes they may come on a bus. And his name was Rakau, R-A-K-U, no, Raku, I think. So I asked him to take me back to his home. And so we walked down through the town. It was probably a 10-minute walk through the busy streets, and then very quickly out into a small village. And he was just so proud to take me back to his tidy, small, dirty house. His mother was so proud that I was there. It was what I call a tidy, dirty house. To us, we couldn't think of living there, but to them, in their own way, it was tidy. She looked after it, and she was just so proud that her boy was getting an education. So it was just an eye-opener to realise where the kids come from. Now, some of them live in better houses than that. And so he gets home probably around 3:30, 4. He's busy helping his mother. He has to go and get water, all the things you'd imagine in the mission field. But for that boy to walk me through the streets and to take me back to his house and to see the reaction of his mum. So I probably don't do that enough.
Right.
I think the other things that are the orphans. The orphans have nothing, and they're always pleased to see you. They always call you sir. Yeah. And they want to sit down and talk to you. And so when things are going tough, I go and talk to the kids. Yeah.
Jim, somebody viewing this program may say, perhaps I would like to sponsor a child. How do they go about doing that?
Well, our key way of contacting us is through our website, asianaid.org.
Yes.
And child sponsorship, not everyone can go to the mission field. Not everyone can travel. Not everyone can go on a building trip. But the great thing about sponsorship is you know that every morning you're making a real difference in the life of a child who is over there in the mission field.
Yeah.
And so you'll get school reports, sometimes good, sometimes bad. You can write to your child. So child sponsorship is a very effective way of having a real live involvement in the mission field.
Wonderful. Jim, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us today. And viewers at home, maybe God is calling you to make a difference in the life of a child in India or Nepal or Bangladesh. Life is tough. Life is very difficult, and there are many kids whose lives are being changed through Asian Aid. So go to asianaid.org and see if this is something that you might be able to support. I know my daughter, my 7-year-old, receives letters from a girl that she's sponsoring in India, and helps open up her eyes to a world of need and to connect with that. And please pray for Asian Aid. Pray for Jim and his team. when I was a kid, we'd go to camp meeting, and part of the excitement was to meet, quote, real live missionaries. Well, I'm delighted to say that my guest today is a real live missionary. And Greg, thanks for joining us. Greg, you work with Global Mission. You are the director of the the Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions. It used to be called the Buddhist Studies Center, but now we see that it's actually a bit more complex than just Buddhism. Tell me a little bit about the scope of the center.
The center is working with Buddhists, of course. That's the primary group that's been working with over the last couple of decades. But it also encompasses Taoism, Confucianism, Shinto, and other East Asian religions and traditions that maybe some of them are not so much a religion, but it's a mindset. It's a worldview that certainly impacts how people understand the good news of Jesus Christ.
Sure. Now, Greg, you were working in Bangkok, Thailand. Mm-hmm. Before that, where were you?
Well, I was working in another part of Southeast Asia that is not open to the gospel. So it was actually an area that when we wrote articles and things, we were always pseudonymed because we didn't want to disclose the location. But it's a country, a communist country that has beautiful people, a beautiful place to live, enjoys great peace and that sort of thing, but not a lot of religious freedom.
Yeah. Now, that's where I first met you, and at that time you were working for the educational needs of the community and making a lot of friends, I saw. How long have you and your family been in Southeast Asia?
We've been there 11 years, 10 years before coming to the center, and enjoyed all of it. It's just a beautiful place to be involved in living a life. So
11 years, and how long have you and Amy been married?
We've been married 17.
Okay, so your majority of your life has been,
right.
Yeah. Now you have two children, and you're living in a place that's very different from where you come from. What has led you to not only go as a missionary but to stay? Mm-hmm.
Well, we actually have 3 children.
Oh, sorry.
we have. You're right, though. We have 2 that are our own children, but we have a foster daughter that's been with us. I forgot about that. Yes. So, but that's all right.
How old is she?
She's 13. Just between our kids, who are 14 and 11, and she's a joy to our home, and living with us now in Bangkok. But we first got involved in missions was when I was a student at Atlantic Union College as a colporteur, literature evangelist, and that's missions, isn't it?
Sure.
Going out and going door to door. And at that time, I realized I really wanted to focus my ministry on those outside the church, reaching the unreached. And so made that, when my wife and I got married, that was our dream. That's what we would focus our life on. And when we were at the seminary, felt the call to missions, and with the help of the missions department, we joined with Adventist Frontier Missions and enjoyed serving for 10 years there in Laos. And it wasn't always easy. The first month I arrived, I was in ICU. Almost passed away, actually, because I had amoebic dysentery, leptospirosis, and all these other kinds of tropical things. I didn't have any idea. We were so green. Wow. But God spared my life, and we're still serving. So, but what an amazing experience it has been.
Yeah. Now, Greg, I know that recently you went through a tragedy in the family. Tell us about that.
Well, when we were in our previous employment in a different part of Southeast Asia, there were 2 girls that I was involved in children's ministries in the field, and did a lot of work with children, held the first vacation Bible school in the country, and all these kinds of activities. But during that time, become aware of different needs of different families, and not only our own daughter, Sida, but another girl that was much younger. We were also taking care of her. Father had been killed in gang activity. Her mother had been gone since she was 1 month old, actually in prison for dealing drugs. And so our grandmother was trying to raise her, and she asked us to be kind of surrogate parents. So we fostered her and helped. And that brought us a lot of joy. But she had a health condition called thalassemia, which is a blood disorder. Causes an anemia. It can cause growth stunting and that sort of things. And she required a monthly blood transfusion. since the time she was about 4.5.
Oh, poor kid.
And yeah, it was very traumatic. She was very unhealthy, so my wife is a nurse and would help her quite a bit with stabilizing her health some and going to the hospital. Well, it was very difficult for us to leave the country and to accept this call for one reason, for many reasons, but one of the reasons is because, of course, this little girl we'd have to leave behind. That was difficult, and the tragedy we went through was actually just in January. We found out that she got a spinal meningitis, and they couldn't control it, and she was in ICU, so we rushed to go be with her and hope to get her better medical care, take her to a better hospital, but she just didn't make it. We got to say goodbye. She was crying. She was actually in a coma, but she woke up for just about an hour. We were able to say goodbye to her. Very heart-wrenching, you know, and she coded when we tried to transfer her, and while they were doing heart compressions and different chest compressions, that sort of thing, you know, just watching that thing, and holding the grandma next to me and just saying, God, why, you know. What a challenging experience that was, because here this 6-year-old child now, you know, she passes away. The grandma went into a serious depression and didn't know if life was worth living anymore. God had taken her son, now her granddaughter, and is how she saw it. And to make a long story short, we told her after a few months, we said, please come and spend some time with us. And we just began to go back through the story of the plan of redemption, but especially focusing on the meaning of Sabbath, and on the picture of the new earth and what that was going to be, where she can be reunited and raise her daughter, or granddaughter rather, in heaven. And now she's excited. She's got her faith restored, and she's sharing the blessing of God's plan and the Sabbath with everybody. And so we find that there's great comfort in the promises of the new earth and the time we'll be reunited with our loved ones. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Greg. God bless you. Viewers at home, you know, there's so many joys in mission service, but there's also challenges, there's hurts and there's pain. And please remember the thousands of missionaries who are serving around the world today. God will remain close to them and will comfort them and encourage them and continue to support them.
It's Sabbath morning on this mountaintop in China. Above the simple village home stands a church. Every week, members of this village gather to study and worship God. Several years ago, an Adventist member started visiting the mountain tribal groups, and he made the long trek up this mountain. He found this village and a small group of people who believed in Jesus and worshiped on Saturday, only they didn't have a church building like this. The man kept coming back and meeting with the people. Together they built this church by hauling the materials up the mountain in baskets on their backs, a 40-minute hike. Years ago, there was an Adventist family in this village. This man's grandfather was studying to become a worker for God at China Training Institute back in 1940. Those were turbulent times and the school closed. But through the years, a small group of believers remained faithful until one day a visitor found this lost tribe and reignited the ember of faith in this village. Today, 1/3 of the people in the village are Adventists. Every Sabbath they gather to sing, pray, and worship God in their church. The children especially love it when they share a meal after church. Thank you for joining us on our visit to this not-so-lost tribe and meeting the lovely people who live and work in this village. And thank you for your prayers and support of mission work around the world.
Today we have a special offer on Global Mission Snapshots. We know that many of our viewers love mission and the different peoples, cultures and places around the world. And so if you live in North America and also enjoy eating, we'd like to send you a free copy of a new cookbook called A Taste of Travel. This beautifully illustrated book features soups and stews from more than 130 countries. So if you live in North America, simply call our toll-free number 1-800-648-5824 or visit our website and ask for A Taste of Travel. or just mention the Soup Cookbook. This book is completely free, although if you'd like to include a small donation, we'd be happy to receive it. But hurry, because supplies are limited. And don't forget to clearly state your name and address, and we'll send you a copy while supplies last. Please pray for the people and places you see here each week. And thank you to those of you who call or go online and support global mission projects. Thank you for helping us reach the unreached with hope. Until next time, I'm Gary Krause for Global Mission Snapshots.